Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh on student loans goes viral on social media. WNBA games continue to have adult toys thrown onto the court and they complain about it. The Biden administration overestimated jobs created by over 1 million. Man physically assaults an elder pro-life advocate and gets 0 jail time. Jeep with a good old V8 is here to stay. And Home Depot branded Ridgid nail guns are being recalled. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see the founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapters so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more. Also, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part podcast, you have the Jeep with a good old V8 is here to stay, well, at least for the Rubicon. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Brian over there. And they say, quote, Jeep fans, don't worry, the V8 Wrangler won't die after all. After previously announcing the end of production, Jeep has flipped the script for the Rubicon 392. Turns out it's here to stay, which is a very rare picture of a Jeep Rubicon outdoors on maybe a side of a mountain. Very rare. I can't help but think 98% of Jeep Rubicons are basically pavement queens who never actually go into actual mud. But interestingly enough, there's one in the wild, though maybe it is CGI. I'm not sure. It might be an edited photo. Now, again, this is credited to Brian at Motor1.com. And they say, quote, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 has a roller coaster experience. Introduced in 2020 as the first V8 powered Wrangler in over 40 years, it was originally set to end production in 2024. Hell, Jeep even released a final edition trim to send off the much loved Roadster. Which I kind of laugh because, yeah, Stellantis did that in spades, so to say. Pretty much every awesome Jeep and Dodge product with a good old V8, they did a final send-off edition, which I laugh because some speculators and quote-unquote auto investors purchased as investment vehicles, pun hardly intended, thinking they would go up in value, spending as much as like $250,000 on like the Challenger V8 final edition, which again, for about a year, they did have the comical electric Charger as well as the straight 6 Charger. And then, yeah, it turns out, yeah, that doesn't sell. We like V8s and they're awesome. They're profitable. And then, you know, when they tried that, Stellantis' profits went down by 42%, revenue went down by about 47%. And lo and behold, now they realize, oh yeah, we should probably make profitable vehicles. And now that you have more lax regulation in the United States for emission standards, yeah, we're going to make them again. So yeah, all the special editions, they're now worth, not so much. Which, not financial advice. That's why I always tell people, never treat automobiles as financial assets. But enough of my ADHD. Now, they say, quote, but after seeing the serious demand, the company extended the production of the 392 for another model year. Now, Jeep's extending the production of the Hemi-powered Wrangler yet again, and there's more V8-powered Jeeps on the way. Now, this according to CEO Bob, saying, quote, after being out at the Rubicon Trail, it's clear just how much people love the roar of the 392. With all that love, how could we 86 the V8, unquote. Now, they continue saying, as again, this is Bob, CEO, Jeep fans, don't worry, the 6.4-liter Hemi V8 will have a home at Jeep. We will extend the availability of the 392 Wrangler, and in fact, we will tap the power and performance of the Hemi across Jeep products as new projects are already underway. Unquote. Now, articles continue saying, quote, it's unclear if the Wrangler 392 has been extended to another model year, or if it will remain the Wrangler lineup for the foreseeable future. There's also no word on which Jeeps would receive the Hemi power going forward, though with a range of large SUVs in the company's lineup, we wouldn't be surprised if it quickly proliferates across the Grand Cherokee and Wagoneer product lines. The Hemi's renewed favorability at Jeep doesn't come as a shock, given the similar sentiment across the greater Stellantis lineup and the fast disappearing emissions regulations. The Ram was the first to bring back the Hemi, adding it back to its hugely important 1500 pickup, which, having that being a straight 6, which, again, a straight 6 engine is great in a BMW with 3 pedals, obviously, but yeah, in a 1500 truck, when the competition has the option for the V8, you don't want to be the one company that doesn't offer it, because, yeah, spoiler alert, yeah, their sales tanked like a Boeing airplane. Now, they continue to say, quote, though sister brand Dodge hasn't announced anything official, we suspect it's only a matter of time before the Hemi appears in the current Charger, which, yeah, as they would say, no shit, Sherlock. No one is buying the Charger. The EV edition is gathering copious amounts of dust on dealership parking lots. So, yeah, this hasn't been announced, but it's heavily rumored that, yeah, it's right around the corner. Now, he continues to say, quote, Jeep didn't drop any clues on when we might see more Hemi-powered SUVs in its lineup, though considering how quickly the Ram was able to reactivate the V8 trim for the 1500, it's possible to see more 8-cylinder Jeeps in showrooms by early next year. It's also good to note that Anthony Allianz contributed to this report as well. Which, again, if you're a Stellantis employee, shareholder, yada yada, you should be ecstatic with excitement because, yeah, it means this company might actually survive and make a viable living. Because, again, they tried to neuter these great brands with weak, pathetic engines. Consumers weren't having it, and thanks to U.S. government regulations being more lax around emissions, yeah, you can actually make these again, and it'll make a profit. So consumers get what they want. Now, again, Rubicon is the top trim level edition for the Wrangler. It'll be interesting to see how many they actually, what the actual MSRP price is on this, and then again, what the dealer markup might be. But all in all, great news for the consumer. Great to see Stellantis starting to make a comeback. The real question is, how quickly can they get back into the positive? But let me know, what price point would you get this Rubicon if you were looking for an off-road vehicle? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Matt Walsh and student loans begging for forgiveness going viral on social media. Now, this is him actually responding to Dr. Jebra Farshwai, which I'm not purposely trying to mispronounce it, though I probably am. Now, she's actually posted a video of this gal saying, quote, she is crashing out over how much money she owes for her student loans and wants Jeff Bezos to pay off her debt. How do people not understand how much debt they get into when they take out loans? And very unusual. She wants free stuff, but she does not have the cow ring, which is so predominantly worn by leftists. But let's hear what she has to say.
So as it turns out, the student loans that I've been paying $1,500 a month for 2 years have a 17% interest rate. So what I thought I've been paying off for all this time, I'm actually, I owe more than what I started off with. What the fuck? So, Jeff Bezos, this would be a really cool fucking time to Venmo me, bro. I owe $90,000, and I didn't even spend that much on school. Any rich person, please tap in. Kourtney Kardashian, you probably have 8 houses. I'm never gonna be able to buy one because I went to college. I just signed up to be an egg donor. Guess what? Got approved. Who wants my fucking kids? I can't afford them, so start bidding more. Just fucking take them. What do you want? My left arm too? What the fuck am I supposed to do?
And unfortunately, she succumbed to the biggest scam of all, in my opinion, colleges in the United States. Especially those loans that people take out for them, which I personally am on track to actually pay off early this year. But it's an instance where, yeah, 17% interest rates, that's disgusting. Now, Matt Walsh responded saying, quote, I actually have a lot of sympathy for the young adults who got scammed and are now stuck with this crushing debt. I absolutely reject the idea that taxpayers should be forced to save the day, but I still have sympathy. If you want student loan forgiveness, make the universities pay the bill. They're the ones behind the scam ultimately, unquote. Which, yes. However, one of the major contributing factors of why these public universities increase the prices exponentially is because the U.S. government guaranteed the loans, and uniquely, it is actually the one form of debt you cannot get rid of even with bankruptcy. Every other debt in the United States, whether it be medical, automotive, housing, credit card, all those types, you can get out of debt with bankruptcy. Again, not recommended, not financial advice. However, it is very unique that it is the one debt that cannot be forgiven through bankruptcy, and these rates are ridiculous. So if someone says, everyone wants this product, so public schools are brainwashing kids to think they have to go to college. Even my generation, I was told early on in an account with unions protecting unions with the public school systems. Since elementary school, the students, when we were brainwashed by the teachers, who said basically to the point of, you're going to be a loser if you don't go to college. You have to go to college. You have to get that degree. And yeah, spoiler, I would argue for 90% plus of college degrees is a waste of money. You're not going to get that money back. You're not going to gain a tenth of the knowledge in terms of the value that you're spending. And the interest rates on these loans are criminally high. And the schools have no incentive to drive down the prices because it's a guaranteed loan, which, again, if the government didn't interfere, if these loans were only coming from private institutions, and maybe you could also have them be dissolved through bankruptcy, the lenders would have the modicum, they would actually have an incentive mechanism to ask, well, should we give Stacy or Karen, should we give her a loan of $200,000 for a lesbian underwater basket weaving degree? Probably not, because there's no marketable, it's not a marketable job. You'll never get an ROI out of that. You'll be at Starbucks for the rest of your life, which, don't get me wrong, they overpay the baristas, and I'm pretty sure at a certain point you can get stock options, but again, you're never actually going to get a ROI out of those degrees. Even my degree, I would argue, is mostly useless in terms of I got a business degree, but in the first year of starting business, I learned more than all 4 years of business school combined in terms of actual knowledge. Really, silver line to that is it helped get me into tech, which at the time it was a requirement, but yeah, those are long gone now for most tech companies. And yeah, it sucks because also obviously the parents are to blame in terms of you need to educate your kids. Do not trust the government to do this. If you just sit down with a kid in high school, say, hey, Bobby, what do you want to do with your life? You don't know? Okay, maybe take a break, maybe learn a trade. But let's say he says, I want to become a dentist or a doctor, and I want to go to university. All right, let's do some basic math. Here's the cost per year. You have to add in, not just the cost of school and university, but also the textbooks, the food, your rent, all that kind of stuff. Okay, add all of that up. And then, we're going to look at what kind of loans you're getting. Okay, what's the interest rate? And again, even I didn't think about it at the time. Thankfully, I was pretty fiscally frugal my whole life, so I chose university in part because of the scholarships I was able to get. But it's an instance where most people in college, I guarantee you, cannot tell you the interest rate that they have the loan at, and they also can't tell you what's the total cost going to be. And also, if they pay the minimums, which again, you should never do in life, unless you're absolutely forced to, pay the minimums, and this goes for credit cards as well, pay the minimums, it's going to take you decades to pay that crap off. And the amount you'll pay overall is insane. And you heard it and I feel bad for her right here because I don't know what degree she got, but yeah, 17%. That is soul crushing. That is rough. And the only quote unquote life hack that some people are doing, if you go to the public sector, and this does vary by presidential administration, and again, there are a lot of variables when it comes to these incentive mechanisms, but in some cases, if you work in the public sector for a certain amount of years, then they'll pay it for you. As long as you're paying the minimums at the time, they'll pay off the rest, I believe, in some cases after 10 years. But then again, you're also working at the public sector job, which on average you're paid less than the market. Sometimes nonprofit, so it might be an emotional or, giving back, understand that as well. It might be something that means a lot to you. But it also means for that amount of time, you're being paid under the market, under the market rate. And it's just, there are a lot of trade-offs. And I don't think, I think most kids in high school, middle school, there's not really a discussion, at least for my generation. It's just, you're going to go to college. That's why you need to be successful. And at one point in history, that was very true. If you got a college degree, it was almost like a guarantee you're going to be successful. You're going to just knock it out of the park. However, because again, the costs have exploded, I would argue in part also because of useless administrators at colleges and all the useless jobs that they have there. And I don't just mean, classes I think are stupid. I mean literal layers of fat and jobs that don't really contribute to the actual learning experience. It's gotten so expensive, it's comical. I mean, my parents went to one of the best, I consider a pretty prestigious university. It's part of the Big Ten. It's in the Midwest. I mean, they went to the University of Michigan, and my dad working minimum wage summer jobs in Michigan, I believe it was the 70s. He graduated with an MBA with only I think it's $750 in debt, which again, even adjusted for inflation, it's a couple thousand. That's nothing compared to the amount of debt we're seeing today. Where again, she's got $70,000-$90,000. At what point? I mean, this is one of the biggest scams of the generations. It's telling kids you have to go to college. It's going to give you a great career. And interestingly enough, on my interview show, Topping Talks, most of the people I met who are millionaires, the most successful people, they don't have anything beyond, in some cases, they don't even have a high school degree. They just find it something they're very passionate about, something they're good about, and they work like hell for years. In many cases, they start their own business, expand and grow. It's just, it's one of those things where I had to do all over again. I've never gotten a college degree. It has just lost so much of its value, and it's become so commonplace, and there's so many useless degrees. And I'm only partially kidding when I say lesbian underwater basket weaving. We mostly call those sociology degrees or cultural studies degrees or English degrees. Again, if the only job from a degree is a teaching of that degree, that is a useless degree. Which again, if the whole college experience, the whole college situation was a private sector, no smart bank would ever say, "Oh yeah, we're going to give you that degree." Right now, those loans are only being given because they are 100%, they're guaranteed by the government to be repaid, and people have no choice. And again, you take out debt, you should absolutely pay for it. But they keep rising the price because there's no incentive to drive down the price. Every year college is more expensive. I would argue you get less value out of it. And it's kind of the point where it's not differentiated. It really isn't a differentiator in the market anymore. And truth be told, when I'm looking at hiring people, I sometimes joke. I say I almost see that as a negative on someone's resume. It's really about, or obviously it's more about, what is your actual career track? What is your accomplishments, or what are your statistics? Especially easy to quantify things like sales, where you can talk about, quota achievement, number of appointments, number of pipeline generated, conversion from sales, pipeline to sales. There are certain roles that are much more easier to quantify. Again, and it's one of those things where after your first job, no one ever asks about your college degree ever again. Although, unless you go to Harvard, then I'm pretty sure it's kind of like owning a Ferrari. It's kind of almost like a knee jerk, like a tick. Those people have like an urge to always have to tell people. But besides that, most people don't have that weird tick. It's like, I haven't mentioned my college degree in probably 4+ years. No one cares. And it sucks because these people are, it's just soul crushing. Now, the silver lining of the situation is I think more and more people are starting to see that there's just not so much value about college degrees. They're going to find better jobs. I would argue safer jobs in terms of career track or in terms of longevity of a career, since a lot of these jobs that traditional college degrees were promoting are being replaced by AI as well. But perhaps I'm alone in this assessment. Everyone in the comments is saying no. Jeff Bezos also asking Jeff Bezos for help. Why? Again, she's not an employee. Presumably she's not a shareholder. Again, randomly asking Jeff Bezos for help. And again, people talk about student loan forgiveness. That's perverse, disgusting, and ridiculous. Mentally vacuous. Also, again, Joe Bob the plumber shouldn't have to pay for your mistakes or your college degrees. That's ridiculous. And again, it does not address the problem. Kind of like immigration. If you just do an amnesty or like for student loan forgiveness, you're just putting a band-aid on the situation. You're fixing the symptom, not the core issue. The core issue is college costs way too much and delivers little to no value these days. That's the real issue. The costs have exploded and you get less and less. But again, perhaps I'm alone in this analysis. Let's go to the comment section to find out. Now, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to Based Electrician, and he says, quote, universities and companies making the predatory loans offered loan officers. Again, click that subscribe button. It might help when I'm speaking ineptitudes. I know I speak faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. But as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I've been slightly better at speaking. Some people might argue it's just a modicum improvement, though I would argue statistically speaking, improvement nevertheless. So if you click that button, tell your friends and your enemies. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, what I was trying to read is Based Electrician saying, quote, universities and the companies making the predatory loans offers to 17-year-olds are to blame. But don't make them pay only the suckers if they fell for the scam. Also reward the kids bright enough to avoid it. Gain 51 likes. Politically motivated say, quote, universities should foot the bill for scamming the entire American generation and crippling an entire generation with endless debt. Once the universities get footed for the bill, they will cease to exist. Gain 475 likes. Yeah, they also have Harvard had a $48 billion endowment. Universities are doing quite well. Jimmy Chill says they got duped by school quote-unquote mentors that told them military service and trade schools were quote-unquote beneath them. Getting 226 likes, going up like a stock. Doge.ai looks like an automated response. It says, quote, the real scam, universities jacking up tuition while taxpayers fund the bloated administration through federal aid. Students get trapped in debt, but bailouts just reward the colleges that cause mess. Precisely. If you want accountability, start by auditing every dollar of the $1.6 trillion of student debt bubble. How much went to DEI bureaucrats instead of actual education? Let's bankrupt the degree mills, not the taxpayers, getting 436 likes. CJ Engel says, quote, taxes don't have to cover this. Seize the university endowments. The conservative movement has pointed out for half a century that these are mechanisms of cultural and political subversion anyway. The left are recreating the American culture, starting the university system. Let's attack the source, getting 1,000 likes. Another good point. Long time ago, universities used to be places where you actually discuss different discuss and debate different ideologies. I mean, nowadays they're mostly fully indoctrination sites. I mean, what was it? Ben Shapiro's book, which his popularity is going down like a Boeing rocket or Boeing airplane these days, but he did have a good book a couple years ago, which I try to find on the shelf. Where is it? Brainwashed, appropriately enough, where he goes over the statistics on which teachers are conservative versus liberal versus libertarian. Spoiler, yeah, it's like 99.9% liberal teachers at universities. There's no diversity of thought. So yeah, I would also argue you really don't go, you go there to get indoctrinated, not to actually learn anything. Going down, you have Dr. Lorson Wolf, commentary account? Never seen that disclaimer before. Says, quote, she's right about one thing, it's a scam, but the scam didn't come from Bezos, it came from bloated universities, selling dreams at cartel prices with government-backed lies. You want justice? Make Harvard pay, not the plumber. And 453 likes. Patrick Payne says, first of all, 17% interest rate should be illegal, getting 273 likes, which, yeah, there's no bitch worse in the world than Sally Mae. I have heard so many horror stories, and that's when the private lenders, again, you get those almost double-digit interest rates. That's insanity. Oh, it's just criminal. Seabass says universities don't handle the loan genius, getting 65 likes, which is true. Again, not too dissimilar from a car dealership. I mean, predominantly trying to think of I can't think of any single car dealership that does it in-house. It's very rare these days. Predominantly, all the financing is third party. The universities don't handle the loans, but again, they get a lot of the money, and they're partnering with these financial institutions to actually, process these, and they get paid up front. Well, again, you pay the loan company for, 10, 20, 30 years plus. You also have, let's see here, PZA saying 17% is just insane. Mine were 4%, and I'm extremely lucky that they were, because I would have easily signed at 17% for being a stupid kid. F them universities that do this to kids, and F the lenders that F them over. Take the interest rates down to 3% and give these people a chance to pay it back themselves, or let people declare bankruptcy from them to see these places. So these places can't lend money freely, getting 65 likes, which, again, well, I don't know if they'll ever get changed in our lifetime. The argument in terms of the bankruptcy is that, and I can laugh at the idea because I don't think you get much value, but the argument is that the student gets the value of the universities, you can't return that. I think it's comical because, again, I don't think they have much value at all these days, but that's one of the arguments of why they say that you should not be able to get rid of it via the bankruptcy process. Let's see. You also have Anthony Galil saying, quote, yeah, it's messed up that the government enables this. In a free market, no bank would give someone with no real skills $90,000 unless they have the government as their shark loan officer. We should abolish the DOE, including the student loans and the tuition prices, and then student tuition loans would drop a lot. In 81 likes. Jeff Younger says the scammers run by the government and the universities together. The government should pay. 114 likes, but again, the government steals our money from us. So that would be us paying. Again, culturally speaking, I think a lot of people have woken up to the scam of colleges, universities not being worth darn near anything these days. I suspect we're going to see a continuation of people declining, or the rate of college attendance decreasing over the next couple of years, and a lot more people going to the trades. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, the WNBA games continue to have adult toys thrown under the courts, and they're complaining about it, which is silly because this is the first time people watch the WNBA in probably 10 plus years. Now, this brought to us thanks to Colin Rugg, and he says, quote, new WNBA coach says it's, quote, time to take action against people throwing adult toys in the court during games, saying, quote, we're not the butt of the joke, which she's not very bright. Well, of course not. She's working WNBA, but yeah, in terms of falling right on top of a word pun, well, you did it. And this is one of the coaches.
Things onto the court. Obviously, you guys know what the object is, and I just want to comment on this has been going on for centuries. The sexualization of women. This is the latest version of that, and it's not funny. It should not be the butt of jokes on any radio shows, or in print, or in any comments. The sexualization of women is what's used to hold women down. And this is no different. This is just its latest sport. And we should write about it in that way. And these people that are doing this should be held accountable we're not the butt of the joke. They're the problem, and we need to take action. Thanks.
No, you are the butt of the joke because the WNBA is a joke. And Slayer, she says, men are keeping women down. No, the WNBA is run by women, famously. They even have a sugar daddy. Even with a sugar daddy and being run by strong women, they haven't made a profit ever in 28 years. They've wasted about $400 to $500 million in terms of losses. And again, the U.S. population is slightly more than 50% women. So again, if every woman watched the WNBA, they would presumably make the same, if not more, money than the NBA. Spoiler, no one watches the WNBA except their family members. The players' family members, that is. And perhaps one or two guys if they're forced to. Like, if you lose a bet, maybe a guy will be, he'll make his friend go watch a game. But again, you should always hold your friend, to their word if they lose a bet. That's one of those few times where I'd be like, I don't know if I can do that to you, bud. I know we said the loser would have to go see a WNBA game, but I don't want you to die of boredom. And there's a not 0% chance that could happen if you were to go to a WNBA game. Now, hilariously enough, this is actually the first time people talked about the WNBA in a couple months. And again, they're doing it because it's funny. And it is. And it's because the WNBA players are just so boring. I mean, they make me look like an athlete, which is saying something. Don't get me wrong, I love to run and I work out daily. But in terms of hand-eye coordination, let's just say I can maybe get the basketball to go in the hoop once every couple of times, maybe. But yeah. Now, this went moderately viral, got about 120,000 views and 1.1 thousand likes. The rabbit hole says, quote, "We're not the butt of the joke. Just recently, the WNBA was demanding to be paid more despite the fact that its subsidized league would not exist without the welfare of the NBA. Colin Rugg says, Caitlin Clark was the best thing that ever happened to women's basketball because she brought in more viewers, and they immediately complained about her. And now they're doing the same thing all over again, getting 105 likes, which shows how mentally vacuous and how moronic the WNBA is. If they're smart, they're not. They would have highlighted Caitlin Clark, used her for nearly all the marketing promotional materials, where we really highlighted her achievements. Again, and Caitlin Clark did the impossible. She got more people to go watch the WNBA. That's insane. I didn't think that was possible. There was a golden opportunity, and leadership was so mentally vacuous and stupid. The WNBA says, we're going to focus on other things. We're going to allow her to get, beat up on the court. And again, people started to tune out. And here, again, if they were smart, they're not. I would venture to say they would maybe make a WNBA team's mascot be a toy for a day. I find if you lean into the meme, the meme as I call them, or the joke, it's much more effective marketing. It would be hilarious. People, if they can go with the joke, if one of the players sort of throw it back or do something like that, maybe more people would tune in overall. But again, them complaining about it is just even more hilarious. Again, fiscally speaking, they're also a joke. Again, about $400-500 million negative over 28 years. And it's also funny, strong, independent woman. They needed a sugar daddy, NBA, who again is also a major investor, has been propping them up for years. Well, literally since day one. You have Matt Van Sol saying, quote, this has been going on for centuries. What now? Getting 130 likes. Colin Rugg says, yeah. Yeah, green adult toys being thrown on the NBA court has been a huge problem since the founding of our country. Getting 120 likes. I can't even say that with a straight face. Old school Eddie says, quote, I'm sorry, but I can't be the only one who thinks the WNBA brought this upon themselves, getting 645 likes. Colin Rugg says, quote, conspiracy theory, the WNBA is paying people to carry these stunts to make ratings go up, getting 486 likes, which, again, it's working. We're talking about it. People are actually watching clips of it because of that, which, again, a normal WNBA game, no one will watch. Except, again, their family members. And that's when they'd have to really love those family members. I can't but think, if my sister was in the WNBA, I don't think I would watch. Maybe once. Definitely, I just wouldn't go in person. It's inconceivable. Now, you also have Dr. Simon Goddick saying, quote, the WNBA is finally getting some attention, and this woman is complaining about it. You can't make this up. Getting 164 likes. Colin Rugg says, quote, they want to get paid more, but complain when more attention is brought to the WNBA. You can't force people to enjoy women's basketball. They want more attention. They shouldn't complain when they get it, even if it's not the type of attention they wanted. Getting 23 likes, which, again, it's hilarious that the WNBA players were saying for months, oh, you got to pay us what we're worth. If that were true, the players should actually have to pay the owners because, again, they lose money every single year. Gunther Eagleman also says, quote, Grimy and FN River attitudes like this is, will yet again crater what little viewers they already have, getting 157 likes. Paul Zupa also says, quote, not the butt of the joke, what a poor choice of words, getting 265 likes. I mean, it's such a poor choice of words, it's got to be intentional. Julian's Rum says, quote, so throw, try to keep this moderately family friendly. I don't know if it's possible for this segment of the show, but he's saying, so throw rear plugs now, getting 105 likes. I don't know if that's any better, but the attempt was made. Miss B also has a picture of a guy with a bunch of those toys on him and says vendors at the WNBA games be like, 322 likes, which, yeah, I was going to say, slap on a logo. That could be the new team's mascot. They'd sell some merch, which again, I've never seen anyone in the real world wear any WNBA merch. That could be the first. Just have their logo with the toy. They may even sell more than 2 shirts this year, which would double their sales. That'd be magnanimous. That'd be huge. But yeah, they continue to be a joke. And even with all this new attention, I can't help but think they still won't be financially viable for decades, if not ever. But again, they got some attention. They don't want people to watch. And I can't help but think this is just going to increase in frequency. And I mean, maybe it'll even get entertaining. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have news of Joe Biden administration. Will they overcounted jobs by over 1 million? Now, this is brought to us thanks to Nick Sorter. And he says, quote, President Trump and economist Stephen Moore just revealed that the Biden Bureau of Labor Statistics overcounted the number of jobs by added under Biden by 1.5 million. Because, of course, more lies and deceit when Biden was in office. Who would have guessed?
Yes, George.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I called the president because I had some very good news from some new data that we've been able to put together that no one has ever seen before, and I'll just very quickly go through these. So I was telling the president that he did the right thing in calling for a new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because this shows that over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. Mr. President, that's a gigantic error. And I don't know if she's, I'm not
It might not have been an error. That's the bad part. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Whether that, you may well be right, but even if it wasn't purposefully, it's incompetence.
Right. Yes, George.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I thought Trump would pontificate more. What do you say if the camera were to keep rolling? That overestimation of jobs was huge, magnanimous, enormous. All the lies from Lion Joe, Sleepy Joe, just keep getting wider and bigger, like Rosie O'Donnell's fat, ugly head. We have to make sure she stays in Ireland. She can keep the potatoes in the old DeLorean factory. I mean, who knows? Trump might have said that when the camera went off. It's not a 0%. The odds are not 0. Might be close, 0.0005 maybe, but the odds are not technically 0 for that to have happened. And this went moderately viral, got about 660,000 views and 27,000 likes, which, yeah, I don't think anyone is too surprised by this because, again, well, most of Biden's administration was lies. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Matt Van Swole, who says, quote, if there's any question as to why we need to get to the bottom of it, it is this. Who was running the country when Joe Biden was president? You cannot tell me he didn't firehouse money and fake stats out every month for no reason at all. This is massive fraud, getting 762 likes. Nick Sorter says, quote, I guarantee there was a hell of a lot of off-the-books money that went straight into Biden's cronies. The Biden White House was just a front, getting 328 likes. Ryan says, was anything Biden said the truth? Doubt it. The most credible administration ever, getting 300 likes. Divisive Content says, quote, government propaganda has been the norm for decades. They didn't overcount the job numbers by mistake. They're putting out propaganda, getting 69, so get 70 likes. Nick Sorter also says, quote, seems like the propaganda only goes one way these days, getting 40 likes. Brittany Rose is not an accident, getting 39 likes. Conservative Alternative says, quote, Democrats rely on deception because reality reflects poorly upon them, getting 11 likes. Old Moose American says the Biden administration was nothing but fraud. They lied about everything, gave 13 likes. Let's see here. Oh, we finally have a contrarian statement. I had to do a little scrolling. This is from Roland Martin saying, quote, y'all MAGA people are really stupid. Y'all will fall for anything. Gained 379 likes. Was he ratioed? No, the closest thing was Mr. Walls, and that wasn't even ratioing. It was just saying literally anything. They didn't question anything unless the evidence is in their favor, getting 7 likes, which No, there's a lot of things people are upset with Trump, and they're calling him out. Mary Ott says, amazing. Did the Biden administration ever tell the truth about anything? Getting 41 likes. Yeah, I don't know. Walter Kurt says they did it every time. There's one revision back in 2023 where they revised from 1.1 million jobs to 10,000. The entire Biden administration was a scam, getting 44 likes. Someday I would love to get to the bottom of the story of how many times was the auto pen used by Biden, or more accurately, how many times was his signature used with the auto pen without his actual authorization. Republicans are looking into it, but we'll see if we ever get to the bottom of that story. But yeah, not too surprised they overestimated the jobs created by such a big delta. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have a man attacking pro-life elders and getting 0 jail time as the double standard continues to be in effect with radical judges. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say there's a visual disclaimer on this because it actually shows a picture of the gentleman who was assaulted, and it is a little bit bloody. I won't maximize that picture for a second there. Now, this is thanks to Lives at TikTok, and she says, quote, Patrick Bryce, who was caught on video violently assaulting and beating 2 elderly pro-life advocates outside Planned Parenthood to receive 0 jail time. Instead, he'll only serve 1 year of home detention. What? Is ridiculous. And obviously, if you have children watching, cover their eyes for this. It's about 13 seconds long, and you can see his face right there. I'm gonna turn this annoying music off. And yeah, the radical leftist just tackles this guy out of nowhere. He tackles one guy. Someone comes over to try to help, and this person, what is this? A pride flag on the back of his t-shirt? Trans flag? Oh, whoosh! Color me shocked. Knocks someone down, hits him while on top, and proceeds to kick him when he's down, which just sure sign of POS, hitting someone while they're already knocked down. And yeah, this is not too surprising. There are a lot of radical judges. It's got about 270,000 views and 30,000 likes. It reminds me when Biden and Harris were in charge, when they were in office, there's a father who's a pro-lifer who was arrested for praying outside of Planned Parenthood, and they showed up to his house to arrest him with 6 vehicles with SWAT. Guns drawn upon him, his wife, and children when they knocked down the door. Yeah, that shows you how the justice system works. Interesting how people on the left really aren't held accountable. And of course, he get 1 year home detention. So, he gets to stay at home vacation for assaulting these people? Kicking them while they're down, causing that much damage? For those who are just listening on the Apple podcast or the Spotify, I think sounds cooler my way, but this gentleman's face is clearly, deformed. His eyeball socket is almost the size of a golf ball in terms of swelling above where his eyebrow is. Nose is deformed. I'm not sure it's broken. There's blood everywhere. And yet, 1 year home detention? That's ridiculous. Now, go in the comments section. Well, the first ones comes from, not the most liked comment, but the most handsome, I would say. Me, the Topping Show, I say, quote, typical one-sided justice system with crooked judges getting 5 likes. The based electrician says, quote, violently attacking the elderly in the name of murdering babies isn't the heroic act this moron think he is. Getting 339 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, that's Baltimore for you. They hate babies and innocent people who protect them, getting 123 likes. Also have Cusco saying, quote, no one can convince me the powers that be aren't begging for civil war, getting 549 likes. 551 likes, going up like a stock. Amelia Henderson says, quote, 1 year of couch time for breaking bones and spilling blood. That judge just spat on every pro-life grandma in America, getting 261 likes. I can't but think that's the point. They want these evil people to know there's not really any punishment if you go after these peaceful protesters. Oscar the Grouch, I know he's on Twitter. Apparently he is. He says, quote, woke Baltimore MD Judge Yvette Bryant to find a new career. At the conclusion of the bench trial, Circuit Judge Yvette M. Bryant said she had no doubt that the Crosby suffered serious protracted and permanent injuries, but the issue in the case, she said, was intent. Getting 326 likes. Yeah, that judge should be judged herself. That is just so sick and disgusting. Again, spoiler, anyone with a modicum of intelligence would know, people who are more elderly are more frail. And you're hitting them while they're down, and the judge is saying, well, he didn't intend the injuries to be that bad. The hell you mean? Ridiculous. Susie says, quote, didn't Bryce violate their civil rights? Where the feds? Getting 385 likes. Crushing woke culture says, quote, if he had shoved a climate activist holding a sign, he'd be rotting in federal prison. But beat up 2 elder pro-lifers, enjoy a year of Netflix and DoorDash on the couch. This is not justice, it's regime protection, getting 701 likes. Cat GPT says, quote, the judge. And it says, let's see here. She's a lifelong resident of Baltimore City. I thought that was her weight. She was graduated in 1983. I thought it was mentioning that she was 1,983 pounds. She's a very large African American woman, getting 499 likes. Life, Liberty, and Matter says, quote, name and shame the judge and prosecutor who went along with the leniency, getting 393 likes. Hunter Eagleman says, two-tiered justice system, getting 358 likes. Yep. Owen says, quote, I think an assault like this requires a sentence of around 5 to 10 years. Someone has to serve it. If the criminal, not him, then the judge should do so in his stead, getting 211 likes. We also have Ray saying, reminder, and say, fetus and a uterus, say, quote, people who want babies to live aren't the bad guys, getting 191 likes. Joe Pags Pilgario, I believe that's how I pronounce it, says, quote, but breaking a window in January 6th will get you 4 years in federal prison. Gotcha. Getting 356 likes. Oh, yeah. They also were let in by police and had an escort throughout the building as well. But yeah, they got years of solitary confinement as well. Let's see. Nurse Patriot says, quote, ruin him in a civil suit, getting 43 likes, which maybe that'll happen. I'm a little skeptical. A lot of people are just posting pictures of the judge. Agent 47 says, beating elderly pro-life advocates and walking free isn't justice. It's a regime signaling who's allowed to be attacked. If roles were reversed, it'd be federal prison by sunrise, getting 69 likes. Yep. Molly Pitcher says, good people need to leave Democrat areas, getting 39 likes. Which, again, that's becoming harder and harder because, again, you move, they follow. And, yeah, it's just an instance where, yeah, you couldn't pay me to live in a downtown area these days. But, yeah, I feel it's just so viscerally disgusting how just a lack of proper punishment there is in the United States and how much it does seem to vary by political means and political allegiances. And this is, again, I mean, Trump is in charge. But, again, the power of having so many radical judges, we're seeing the effect. I mean, this isn't justice. You get to hang out at home for a year for beating up old people who are just peacefully holding a sign. That's disgusting. That piece of shit, pardon the French. I mean, he should have got actual serious jail time. In the United States, we actually don't give, it's not so much an eye for an eye in terms of, the judge in the United States can't say he should be physically hurt in the same way. But yeah, this doesn't feel like justice because it's not. And I'm pretty skeptical in terms of, I'm just so skeptical. I don't know if we'll ever actually replace some of these radical judges. Again, this is also the importance of voting on a local level, because a lot of these positions are, they run for office and they get elected. So I'm pretty pessimistic to see if anything will change. I wonder if hopefully these elder folks will file a civil lawsuit against this piece of crap. But let me know, what do you think the actual verdict will be in terms of that? And do you think the tide is changing, or do you think these radical judges are here to stay? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have a Home Depot Ridgid nail gun while it's being recalled. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, though it's a pretty low bar. And they say, quote, TTI Consumer Power Tools recalled Ridgid framing nailers due to laceration hazard. Now, for those who don't know, TTI, they make nearly every tool you see out there. Not just Ridgid, but also Ryobi, also Milwaukee. There are a lot. It's basically almost a duopoly. There's a couple, but it's basically TTI versus Stanley Black & Decker. That's an overwhelming majority of the market. You have some obviously boutique lines like Makita and Bosch, but in terms of market share, those are the two big companies. And spoiler, TTI, but to me, I say Home Depot because this is an exclusive brand for the Home Depot. And I can't but think, not a coincidence, it's also, the Home Depot orange color, but I partially digress. Now, this is the Ridgid 18-volt, 21-degree framing nailers, and it came with the Ridgid 18-volt brushless 30-degree battery, and is the 30-degree angle as well. Now, the issue is, they say, quote, the dual action engagement system on the nailers can malfunction and involuntarily discharge a nail by pulling the trigger alone, posing a laceration hazard to consumers. They say the nailer, which this is common sense if you ever use one of these, but it's an instance where you see the orange tip on that. It's a safety mechanism in which this is only supposed to be able to shoot if you physically depress the nail gun into the actual wood and that orange tip is pushed back. It's kind of like the safety on a Glock where you have that little extra trigger on the trigger, a little safety in the middle of the trigger. You have to push that in order for the actual trigger to be able to pull. In this case, this is not going to make OSHA happy. But yeah, in this case, whoops, that safety doesn't work. So you just pull the trigger, nails will shoot, which, again, not advice, but I can't but also think every kid's dream in terms of having a nail gun fight, which, again, you should never do. But yeah, let's just say every guy's actually, I can't but think also every guy is actually, disabled that just to shoot a nail a couple times at some drywall to see what would happen. Spoiler alert, it's kind of a little boring, but yeah, it's not great. And this affects 64,000 units in addition to 6,575 that were sold in Canada, which I always purposely mispronounce as a slight to that totalitarian country. Now, they say that consumers should immediately stop using the recalled nailers and visit powertools.ridgid/recall to determine if their nailer was included in the recall and for instructions on how to obtain a free repair. TTI Consumer Tools will send a prepaid label to the consumer to return the nailer. The software in the nailer will be updated, and then the nailer will be shipped back to the consumer, which, yeah, Lord knows I'm not a fan of all these fancy electronics and tools these days. But in theory, it should be quick software updates, so maybe it won't be too quick to actually get these turned around. Now, of course, these were sold at Home Depot, as well as direct factory tools nationwide, homedepot.com, and direct tools outlet, July 2021 through May 2021, for between $329 and $389. And spoiler, of course, they're manufactured in China, in terms of country of origin. Now, the upside of the situation, or this recall, is that they did get ahead of the situation. There's been no reported injuries or people passing away because of this defect. And again, it sounds like, it's a pain to, ship them out. They're going to pay a pretty penny to ship those heavy things. But yeah, it's going to suck because, again, a lot of people who are buying these are prosumers and, also craftsmen or, real craftsmen, not the brand from Sears back in the day, which is still a Lowe's exclusive now. But nevertheless, it's an instance where a lot of people use these and they rely on them to actually make a living. And so I got to say Home Depot, because again, this is your big brand. I got to say you, and as well as Ridgid, are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.